people. I mean, very few people remember him, and I don't know why they don't talk about him in politics, in political science, because in California, if you want to talk about someone that had the greatest impact probably on land conservation, it would be Alan Cranston. I mean, he did a huge amount of work on developing public lands or having public lands in place. He came up with the legislation along with senator out of Wisconsin. His name escapes me. They worked on the Wilderness Act and getting the Wilderness Act passed. What Cranston did was when he announced his retirement, it's sort of interesting that we see politics now as such a polarization where basically if you're on the other side, then you're my enemy and my goal is to destroy you. I mean, that's what politics has reverted to now. And if you look at that era when he was doing his work in the late 70s through the 80s, it was a time where, hey, we may not get along politically, but we'll still go out to lunch together and socialize, and I treat you, you know, at that point, I can see you as a human being then, okay? While it's very easy to say, you're on my opposite end of the political calendar with me, so I'm going to find whatever way I can to dehumanize you in my eyes, so that I'm not going to feel anything if I have to destroy you. You know, that's a pretty bad way to live life. And at that time, even the Republicans and the conservatives, all the way across the board, they agreed on his legislation. And his legislation for his final act was to convert Death Valley National Monument to Death Valley National Park, okay, which is much more difficult to get rid of than the National Monument is. He also was able to add almost 300,000 acres or more to Death Valley, and between the wilderness areas that were also designated, it essentially doubled the size of Death Valley National Park. He also established Joshua Tree National Park instead of Joshua Tree being in a different status. He also established all the wilderness areas that are all around this area, and he ended up protecting something close to 4 some odd million acres of land that was otherwise unprotected. And where we are sitting right now was intended to be a national park. This would have been Mojave National Park. It would have been the sequence of Death Valley, Mojave National Park, and Joshua Tree. So there would have been some wilderness areas connecting those. But there were a lot of inholdings here. There was also a lot of history here. A huge amount of settlers settled this place. There's a little town called Yerma. It's here in Death Valley, or in Mojave National Preserve. Does anyone know who the sheriff of Yerma was shortly after the OK Corral ended? It was the older brother, Wyatt's older brother. Virgil became the sheriff of Yerma. So there's a little bit of historical context there, but not to mention the railroads, everything else that came through, there was a historical context. And the people that wanted resource extraction drove that bus for all they could, and they were able to preserve resource extraction. That's not the mission of the national parks, but national preserves can. That's why it's national preserve instead of national park, because of the resource industry that's extracting from it. So it's a little bit hard to, address the biological concerns, especially now when Trump administration has told them you can't consider biology as a priority. If there is a biological consideration in the National Preserve, and this one in particular, he's trying to do the same thing with Alaska, so with extraction of oil. So if he gets through with this, Center for Biological Diversity soon, but if he gets through with this, then what his policy says is if it's a biological concern and if it's going to cost any money or cost any delays in the resource industry, they can choose not to do what the recommendations are. No longer requirements or recommendations. And continue to do resource extraction. And that's the bottom line, that's going to comply. It's not going to be couched that way necessarily by the administration, so. Okay. There's Rosie, Dr. Steve. Of course. Okay, so are you hydrated? I wasn't. I was going down into that realm, and thank God I'm back up above. Fix a bunch of these things to get there. So today, we are right over there, Soda Dry Lake, and Side 6. We are going to travel down this road, come across Baker Road. We're going to make a stop right about here. There's a good place for chuck wallas. We'll take a look at those. And actually it's closer to right here. And it's a really interesting spot because it's where there's a whole bunch of lava flows that come down. And we'll talk about some of the volcanoes at that location. There's a number of cinder cones there. And I want you to look at some of the cinder cones. See if you can spot a little divot that's cut out of the lip of the cinder cone. You'll want to hazard a guess as to what that is, especially with what I just spoke about in the last 5 minutes. Yeah.
The cinder cones?
Yeah. The cinder cone. Well, the cinder cone is that. I'm talking about the notch. Yeah, it's extraction of the cinders. So they use it on road base, things like that. So that's the road that takes it down so that the trucks can fill up with cinders and then drive out of there. So we'll see that too, but the cinder cone's still intact. We just can't see where it was hollowed out to some extent. But there's a huge amount of lava flows, and there's a really cool Native American inscription lettering that was put there recently. Okay? So the reason it was recent was they rebuilt that road, and when they rebuilt that road, they re-diverted a little bit, and they did some other things, and the Native Americans wanted to have a say in it. So the Mojave National Preserve said, okay, and they got to have a say in it. And then as a result, they actually blessed it. So they blessed it, and they did it by their inscription. So we'll take a look at their inscription too. And it's very much in the realm of what we would see as inscriptions with the pipe. This is a pipe with the Shoshone pipe. So we'll actually see that. And then we are going to go down this road to Kelso. So we drop way down to Kelso. This is a valley in which the railroad actually comes down through this valley, and Kelso is a depot that used to be very famous. I mean, we'll be able to look in the windows and stuff. It's not open because they have to do asbestos abatement and things. But it was when we've been doing this a long time. Prior to the pandemic, it was open. And it's where the passengers would stay overnight. They have these rooms, they have conductor rooms, and they had everything restored. And you can actually see this amazing bar that was leased out to a restaurateur that was actually serving hamburger sandwiches, milkshakes, and things like that. So we'll take a look at from there. But we're going to go past that, and we're going to come out to Kelso Dunes. We're going to explore Kelso Dunes. Kelso Dunes is pretty cool because it's a rose quartz dune. Okay, we'll talk about what that means too. Then we're going to come back to Kelso and have lunch there, spend just a little bit of time in there, and then we're going to drive back. When we drive back, we're going to actually putter around a little bit and take a look at the largest Joshua Tree forest in the world is up here. Take a look at that too. A lot of it burned. We'll talk about that burn. But I also want to show you the largest granite dome on the planet. Right there, it's called Sema Dome. And it's 10 miles across, a single granite block, which is doming up like this. And it's really cool. So this is Sema, and here's Sema Dome. It's 10 miles across. Yeah, it's a really cool thing, so we'll be able to see it from that location. Then we'll come back here. Okay? Now when we come back here, we'll have a little bit of time in the afternoon, downtime, but we can also go over and take a look at other things that are going on. By the way, in the morning at dawn, if you want to get up, they're doing bird banding, as long as the wind isn't howling. So be sure to check in with Stan and Sherry bird band. Okay, Freya?
So we're leaving our stuff here, right?
Yeah, we're not packing it there. So
You leave everything except for what you want to take to go to Kelso.
right. So whatever he's taking on a daily basis is what you're taking. So our base camp is here. Yeah.
Are you doing anything with trucks?
Are we doing what?
Camp trucks?
Here?
Yeah.
Eventually, yeah. So that'll be tomorrow.
Okay.
You know, we'll probably do it tomorrow. We just didn't have time today. You know, so it's a time sort of a rest day today.
Figured.
And then if it's not windy or something, we're probably going to also set up some 2 black light stations, and we'll take a look at some black lighting. And each sort of gauge which way the winds are coming, because there's some sheltered areas we might be able to do. You can angle the sheets in the way, but if there's too much wind, nothing will show up, we'll just get blown off the sheets, so that's why we're not doing it. We just bought a bunch more closed ones, so we're able to secure them better. We weren't able to do that before. So we'll run some black lights and we'll have some photographic opportunities then. We can also walk around and do some black lighting too. Now, after I finish this, I want to just sort of give you some ideas of some of the projects that we're thinking about. I'd like to have you mull this over tonight, maybe tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit more about it, especially at Kelso Depot, about some of the things that we have in mind. And want to do it after I show you. Well, no, actually, we'll just give a broad generality of this is what I'm thinking we have available that can be done in the time that we're here. Okay? Please don't think that I'm just saying this is all you can do. I'm saying this is what can be feasibly done without driving you totally crazy. So it's something that can be feasibly done in a 3 to 4 day period. Okay? So that's why I'm suggesting these things. All right? Okay. So the next day, actually, we will be coming right the same way, except we're going to take Kelso Sema Road, go down Cedar Canyon Road, and then we're going to take Black Canyon Road. Black Canyon Road is much higher elevation. Look at where it's up in these Providence Mountains and New York Mountains. So this is an area that's higher elevation. So we should see a whole bunch of really nice wildflowers up here. Okay, so we'll see if we do. But then we're going to actually go over to, it's not showing up here, but right about here, it goes into an area that's called Hole in the Wall. And we'll visit that, we'll take a look at some petroglyphs there as well, and then we'll do a leisurely drive back, probably look at some more wildflowers, and then come back. Okay, so that's what's on tap for Wednesday. All right, so this is what it looks like. This is Kelso Dunes right here. This is Kelso Depot, that little building right there, and we are located right over here. And we're located right over here. So, should I this one right? Yeah, we're located right here. That's where we're located right now. Okay, so rocks, we have 3 different kinds of rocks. We have igneous, metamorphic, and we got sedimentary. So the igneous rock is that volcanic rock that you're going to see a lot of tomorrow. Okay? You're also going to see a lot of volcanic tuff, which is a rock that has sort of sedimentary features to it, but it is made up of ash material that comes out of an igneous situation, a volcano, and it is compressed and then hardened. And it's hardened with the use of things like calcium carbonate. So in a way, it's almost sedimentary in that regard, but it's still an igneous rock. And then if you have either sedimentary or igneous rock that's buried, put under pressure and heat, it basically sort of melts a little bit. Think of it like a candy bar, like a Hershey's chocolate bar, and you leave it out in your dash and it melts partially, but it's not like runny melting, and then it rehardens, and you still got the image of the bar, but it's separated some of that, right? It's a little bit different consistency, a little bit different texture, a little bit different color on it, and that's basically what a metamorphic rock is done. It still retains a lot of the characteristics of either the igneous or the sedimentary rock, but then it's been converted a little bit. So that's the kind of rock. Igneous rock derives from things like the lava material coming up and it's expelled at the surface. We'll see that, a lot of that tomorrow, but we'll also see something like these intrusives. And that's what we're talking about with Sema Dome. Sema Dome has a 10-mile diameter intrusive granite formation. And granite takes a huge amount of time to cool. And that's what results in the crystallization that we have in granite. So all those crystals are migrating through that molten rock material, forming these crystals. So granite takes a long time to do. Not to mention, something that's 10 miles across, not to mention how deep it's going down to the ground. We're just seeing the tip of that, okay? This huge, huge intrusion. So Kelso Dunes is sort of a product of that, because as we look at the mountains, and let me see if, no, it doesn't do that. Okay, let's go back to this. If this is Kelso Dunes, check this out. We have the Granite Mountains right here. We have the Providence Mountains, and there's a high pass right here. This is all low pass. We got the New York Mountains up here as well. We've got a series of mountains here, a series of mountains here. What it does is wind comes down through the wash region of the Mojave River and through the flatland associated with Soda Dry Lake. It comes in here and swirls. Okay? You know that things swirl, things come out of it in the center, right? So what's happening is that the swirling is causing the sediments to be dropped at this location. And it happens to be that area has a high level of quartz, especially the New York mountains, especially the Province Mountains. High levels of quartz, so do the Granite Mountains, and especially with all the feldspar. Granite has a lot of quartz in it, right? So that's all been pushed up into these banks of 700-foot tall dunes. I mean, they're some of the largest dunes in the world. And Kelso Dunes, as a result, has resonance to it. So when you walk on it, when you're walking on the slope and stuff, you're going to hear it. We call it elephant farts or dune farts, because it's like you step on it and go whoop, whoop. But then if you're going down it, or if you're just sitting there listening to it, the sands will shift on the dunes a little bit. When they shift, they start vibrating. When they start vibrating, they emit low frequency sounds. And you get these booms. They sound like far off sonic booms. Boom, boom. That's the dunes talking. That's the dunes talking because of the quartz resonance that's going on. It's really cool. It's a neat place. Okay. So Kelso Dunes, it's an aeolian, meaning wind-blown sand type of situation. It covers a large area. It's 5 miles by 9 miles, so it's 45 square miles. Tallest dunes rise up around 650 to 700 feet above the surrounding terrain. You can see how it's got that knife edge associated with it as those winds swirl and deliver that dune material. Most of the sand grains you see are made up of quartz. If you look at it real closely, look at all the colors you get. The intrusions of amethyst and you've got the champagne colored quartz, you've got the clear quartz, milky quartz, greenish quartz. All of this is available in these kits. Yep.
You said you brought that nice piece.
I did.
Would it be possible to bring some of the sand back?
You probably will be bringing some sand back.
If we happen to bring back some sand, can we look at it under the dissecting scope and we see anything we should do with this?
Okay, you're not hearing me.
No, I
You're
know.
probably going to bring some sand back.
Yes.
We're in a national preserve.
Okay.
So if you openly grab a thing of sand and go, hey Dave, look what I did, I'd say you gotta put it back.
Yeah.
If you grab a little bit of sand and don't say, hey Dave, look what I just grabbed, and I don't see you grabbing it, and you come back and you go, brought back some sand with me, obviously, you know, and we're gonna take a look at it. What am I gonna say? Right? You get my
I thought you were
meaning.
making a joke about
Okay,
looking
you
at
get-
this or something.
Don't even make a joke about it. Just collect a small sample of it. Don't collect a lot of it. Small sample of it. Be the only one that does it. And then I don't have to know about it. I could actually under oath say I didn't know about it. Send Wyatt to jail. Not this one. So no, you'll be fine. Okay, just talk to me about it and we'll figure it out. Talk to one of the TAs. They'll figure it out. So, you know, pretty interesting look, and we should look at that. I think that'd be a great idea. I love that idea. You'll also get a lot of magnetite in this. So if you want to do some really cool photography, you can take some of those small cameras or even your cell phone and put it into black and white mode under like the noir setting, which actually pulls out the blacks much more stronger. And you take a picture of this, and you'll actually have these black rivules as that sand is being pushed by the wind. It's actually acting like a gold mining rig, where the heaviest particles actually drop into these deeper rivules and creates those black sand waves. It's really beautiful, and some of the patterns are amazing. What's even neater is the grasses will sometimes be blowing. You'll have sort of these little markings that go through. I mean, it's total artwork. It's really neat. And there's some programs like Mokuhanga, which allows you to turn it into like a photo into a paintbrush effect to everything. So Mokuhanga is a Japanese art form where they did that with fish. They would take the fish and then do the press and then do the imprint the fish. So there's some pretty cool programs that do some neat things. I ran some of these photos through Mokuhanga before. So sand source are all of these mountains that surround the Kelso dunes are all the sources, and they're all igneous intrusions that are down on the surface. So what we're talking about is New York Mountains, Providence Mountains. We've got the Granite Mountains. Those are the three prominent major sources for this thing. Yep.
Sorry, just for notes, which is in those.
So these are the Granite Mountains. It's a big batholith which has been pushed up. It's an intrusion. We got the Providence Mountains, the New York Mountains. I can't remember these mountains. There's another name for them. These mountains are also granitic in origin. So it should be on that map over there.
These mountains on the western side, that's the New York Mountains.
This is the New York Mountains start right up here.
Oh, there,
Yeah. So this is all going downhill. It's a valley. So the valley is bounded by the New York Mountains further to the north. Yep. The Mojave River also provides a source of a lot of this material. If you notice, there was a lot of light-colored sands associated with the Mojave River, and that material is also washed up into this basin, picked up by the wind, twirled around, creating those dunes that we have. So another good view from this angle. Here's that little crest of the dunes. We're going to be parking right here. We'll be walking into these dunes. This is the old, this is the railroad grade, and there's an old road that used to go alongside it. It's totally closed off now. I was talking with some folks that over at Afton Canyon, that road that goes off to the south, when I first started coming down here, oh man, so we're probably talking mid-1990s when we actually did that road. We took four-wheel drive vehicles, Suburbans, and we did that road and tried to see if we could get the Desert Study Center. And we got the Desert Study Center from Afton Canyon. And it was pretty sketchy in some areas. We were like, are we going to make this? No, but they were school vehicles. So we ended up making it, and it was really an amazing trip. It took all day, pretty much all day.
Did you even do something like that?
No, the road's roached. You can maybe do it in a razor or something like that, but you'd have some
I was
challenges.
like, we could like the road protected.
No, that road's not protected in that you can do off-road, but you gotta stay on the road. That's a good possibility some places. You know, if they have flooding events. So here's that view from the top ridge. We've got the Granite Mountains down here. We've got the different alluvial fans of this. Kelso dunes were associated with climate change action that occurred about 25,000 years ago, basically at the end of the last ice age. So we started getting the drying period up until about 10,000 years ago. And that drying period resulted in a lot of the Kelso dunes formation actually going on. The stabilizing vegetation also dried up, and we lost that stabilizing vegetation holding these soils on the sides of these mountains. And as Soda Lake and Silver Lake continued to dry up, we started to see more of those sediments actually entering the system. And once these dunes, these are the wind-blown sands, are in these non-solid circles, these outline circles, and then dune and sand sheets are located in this color. Okay, here's Kelso dunes. We have a couple more smaller ones. And we have climbing and falling dunes that are much this yellowish color. No, this dune and sand sheets. Oh, this one right here, this color here. So a lot of different aspects to dune formation, but the big one here is this Devil's Playground, which is this offshoot of Kelso dunes, and the main Kelso dunes that are located as active generating sand dune structures. Yes, oh no, that's offhand. That's okay. So this is called saltation. As you have sand piling up, it's going to form those little waves and these ripples, and it's just like almost like gold mining, or if you look at the magnetite sheets that end up showing up on the dune systems, it's in these deeper sections in which the heavier particles occur. What ends up happening is you have the wind picking up fine particles, throwing it up into the air, while the bigger particles are literally hopping across the landscape, breaking apart more of these smaller particles to go up into the wind, which then results in the steeper slip face. So if you go up to the top of Kelso Dunes, you're going to reach a point which is a steep slip face. It's about a 60-degree angle. And you can run down it. But keep in mind, what's going on is all this wind-blown material is sort of lightly packing into this. And when you run down that, you will go up to about your ankle or deeper into the sand. So you've got to do the high stepping thing all the way down there. And if you don't, and you stop doing that, you'll go whoop. But it's soft sand, so you're not going to like break your necks or anything. Nick?
Is there a name for, there's the slip face, is there a name for the opposite face?
This is the slip face, and God, I want to say something like, I don't have it in here. I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head.
Personal prototype.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know about the Kelso dunes. I know some of the other dunes, like Dumont dunes, yes, you can. But I don't know about Kelso, because it is in the national park situation. Before this was a national preserve, Ken Norris, the professor from UC Santa Cruz, he built a place in the Granite Mountains. He's the one that founded the Granite Mountains Research Station. And it's a UC research station, Granite Mountains. But he also found, he made a cabin retreat for faculty and others and grad students to go to that were studying the Granite Mountains. And it became a tradition that was spawned by the graduate students that he never kiboshed, because he thought it was funnier than hell, was naked sand surfing. So grad students could have the option of winning some award for stripping off down to their civvies or nothing and jumping on a piece of cardboard and tobogganing down to come up the Kelso Dunes. Yeah, so that's a famous thing that actually occurred. So again, here we have the booming dunes. These booming dunes are created due to that the formation of those crystals, and those crystals causing that generation of friction, which causes transition to sound. Cinder cones. This is an example of a cinder cone. Here's a little notch. So that's the notch. These are Joshua trees. About 90% of all Joshua trees on the planet occur here in Mojave Desert, not just Mojave National Preserve. Now, of that 90% of Joshua trees, the majority of the largest stands occur here in Mojave National Preserve. Now, one of the things that's happened with Mojave National Preserve is we had a massive fire. Those of you that were taking my restoration ecology class last fall, you know we talked a lot about those fires, because what's the fire frequency like? That kind of fire here in the desert? They don't happen like that. So what the hell happened? It's not like we've been putting the fires out like what we do in the forest. If you talk about Douglas fir and places like Placerville and upwards, Pollock Pines, those areas typically burn every 7 to 15 years. A little bit higher would be about 30-year increments that they'll burn. But this is something that burns catastrophic fire almost never. I mean, we're probably talking hundreds of thousands of years to have a big catastrophic fire. So what the heck happened? Why did we have a fire that burned, I can't remember the number, it was something like 500,000 acres. It was huge. It was this humongous fire. Why did that happen? It was human related.
I was gonna say something, did something stupid, starting fire.
No? Cheatgrass. So we brought in cheatgrass as part of grazing program, because cheatgrass will establish in areas. When we took out the grazing, okay, more cheatgrass survived, more cheatgrass turned into thatch layer. Thatch layer is basically fire starter. And eventually it got enough over a large area that when it did go up, whether it was human caused fire or lightning strike, everything went up. The perfect storm was very low humidity, like 10% humidity level, high winds, like 30, 40 mile per hour winds, and then coupled with a drought situation. And this place went up. And the bad part about it was under a normal regime, even if we had a fire, non-cheatgrass, pre-cheatgrass, we couldn't have a fire. They just burned really low across the landscape and didn't kill the yucca, which the Mojave, which the Joshua tree is a yucca, and it burned up the yucca. So we've lost a huge chunk of that large forest of yucca, of Joshua trees. Joshua trees are the ones that were fed upon by the large ground slots. Okay? So they also lost a mechanism to distribute their seeds. So they're already being hammered by that, and then you top it off with a fire. Question is, are we going to be able to keep Joshua trees around? It did end up in legislation. Okay, the legislation calls for protection of Joshua trees, and I was working on a contract out of Victorville, which is down here, and they had to actually preserve all the Joshua trees that's on the property. There's a big old Amazon warehouse that's going in at former George Air Force Base, and it was wild. It was like, wow, they're actually trying to figure out how to dig up a Joshua tree and remove it in another location. It's got a very different root system. So I'm not sure what they did. I was just dealing with the bats. So basin and range system. Remember all those photographs of the Mojave Desert have a series of mountain ranges and then basins in between that. And the basins are where we started seeing these intrusions of volcanic activity along the edges of where the mountains are. So when you look at the Granite Mountains, you look at the Providence Mountains, you look at the New York Mountains, those actually have along their edges volcanoes, but not on the mountain themselves. The mountain themselves is an intrusion of igneous material that solidified underground as an intrusion, and then erosion and other tectonic activity have brought it up to the surface. But those little edges, that's where magma can creep right up those fracture lines. That's exactly what it did with that big volcanic reservoir that's down below here in the bottom. So what's creating this volcanic reservoir? Basically the Pacific Plate and North American Plate. Where the Pacific Plate and North American Plate are rubbing, I mean they're rubbing coming up where Baja is running into Southern California, it's pushing the Peninsular Range, that's the northern tip of the Baja Peninsula, and it's pushing it up against the mountain range that originally looked like this. Okay, so my right hand is the transverse range, or the proto-transverse range. And then my other hand is the coast range. And then up here we have the Klamath Mountains. Okay, so it's a mountain range. That's where the Juan de Fuca plate is causing that little uprust of material. So if you go down the coast range, hit the transverse range, you would have transitioned to the Peninsula range. But the Peninsula range is going upwards. So what does it do? It hits the transverse, causing it to go like this. So it's our major east to west mountain range in California. It's the transverse. It also caused the transverse to run into the coast range here, causing the coast range to curl around, forming the Tehachapi Pass and the Grapevine. And then you have the Sierra Nevada being pushed, and the block of land that was in between, that's being squeezed by all these things, is the Mojave Block. And the Mojave Block is under tectonic pressure then, which causes the magma chamber underneath it. The dominoes all fall together. So cinder cone volcano. Cinders are the simplest type of volcano. These things have a lot of gas in it. It's this bubbling gas material. It's just bubbling this lava up and breaking it up into small pieces because there's so much gas in it. Even the gas that's within that magma is causing the bubbles to form where before it completely solidifies, it turns into small particles. Versus something that does not have any gas in it, turns into a glass-like consistency that we call obsidian. Okay? Or how about something which has a very small amount of gas in it that can actually be expelled before it fully solidifies? We call that basalt. It's a very hard rock. But when we get to cinders, it's just a gas percolator. It's like a soda that you just shake it up, okay, it's going to be mostly gas. And that pushes all that lava material out into the atmosphere, and it falls and drifts down, creating these cinder cones. Things until the pressure alleviates. And once the pressure alleviates, then the magma chamber goes back down. Eventually things heat up again, the magma chamber builds back up, and it's going to blow another gasket someplace, you end up having more cinder cones. And if it's not gassy, then we're going to have basaltic type of formations, like some of the areas we're going to see. And you also have areas which have, when we go home, we're going to go past areas that have lots of obsidian around the pinnacles area of the eastern sphere of that. Lots of obsidian because it wasn't a gassy type of volcano. So here's some of these mountains. Okay, these are not volcanic, but these are. These are all the volcanoes around it. Okay, the volcanoes, these are cinder cone volcanoes. This is one that actually spewed lava. You see the lava flow that came down. Here's another lava flow that comes down. So a lot of lava flows were also created in this kind of structure. The area contains more than 30 volcanic cones, aged about 7.5 million years ago that they first blew, but they continued to blow until as recently as 10,000 years ago. So we're in this time period that we go, wow, 10,000 years, I guess it'll never blow again, right? Geologically, 10,000 years is equivalent to, I don't know, 6 years to us, maybe 10 years to us. It's a minuscule amount. So at some point it's going to go up again, and we'll have a nice light show, you know, cinder show. Yeah. So here's another view of some of these passes in which you have all this sedimentary material moving through, and here's a cinder cone. Little patch of snow in the bottom of it. Here's a cinder cone with another blowout, another blowout, another blowout up here. This one looks like a lava material. So this was these are cinder. This is lava that actually flowed out on that. So Brian put together some Google images on it. And then, are you hydrating? It's the last part of it. Okay, so tomorrow we're going to talk about hole in the wall when we visit. This is what it looks like. It's a really pretty cool spot. Okay, so let me get out of this real quickly. And okay, so give me about another few minutes. But what we're going to do is we sort of reviewed what we're going to do tomorrow. When we get back, we'll probably see what else we can actually put out as far as exploration. Tomorrow, you got to make sure you have lots of water. I would wear layered clothing. Okay, so have something long sleeve as well. Wide brim hat, not these kinds of hats, but a wide brim one. Something that you have. Okay, so if you saw the back acoustics, I'm going to actually run a program called Kaleidoscope. So this is